It's Reality Check with Craig Price.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me.
You're like a beautiful mind. I'm more like Forrest Gump. So it's,
Craig Price is the man.
I knew it. Craig, shut up. It's Reality Check with Craig Price. This week, Tiffanie Kellog is here to discuss referral marketing. Welcome to the podcast, and thank you for listening. I appreciate you downloading the show. It's no secret my disdain for marketing and quote-unquote traditional networking. One of the reasons I even started the podcast was to find a more comfortable way for me to network and maybe market myself more. Well, the first part works quite well. The second part, not so much. But Tiffanie came across my radar, and she sounded like she teaches folks how to do what I've been trying to do more of. That is, get other people to market and network for me. If someone else can refer me to someone, it doesn't feel so intrusive. I mean, I could talk about my social hang-ups all day, but you didn't download this to hear me go through my therapy session. Tiffanie is here to talk about how to make the right connections, marketing and networking through referrals. So throw away your business cards, toss that obnoxious LED name tag in the trash, and never suffer through another cattle call networking event again with the help of referral marketing and Tiffanie Kellog. You have this thing that I have not heard of. I have heard of referrals, I have heard of marketing, but I have not heard of referral marketing put together like that. I'm going to assume I know what it means, but I want clarification and validation. What exactly is referral marketing?
So referral marketing is actually where you come up with a plan for how to create a steady flow of referrals into your business. Most people know that, hey, I want referrals, give me referrals, those would be great, but they don't actually have a plan on how to do it, and that's where referral marketing comes in. It's just like social media marketing, advertising. It's here's the plan for how we're going to create that flow of referrals.
So give me a starting point, because I think most people only, maybe after an event or after they've done business, simply ask, hey, can I have a referral? And I'm sure it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Yeah, so there is a little bit more to it, and I think the very first thing, the key to creating a powerful and successful referral marketing plan is to determine exactly who is my ideal client. Who are those people that I want to work with and make me a decent amount of money? Once you figure out who the ideal client is, then it's about figuring out who can pass you referrals to those people all day, every day.
Well, that seems like it's almost as difficult as finding out just your regular client to begin with. Because I think one of the hardest parts, especially in the speaking world, is finding out who is the decision maker. So, so to find a decision maker through another person can often be a little weird.
It can be, though, if we're able to clearly articulate exactly who we're looking for as a client, so much so that people can see in their mind's eye who that person looks like or what that company looks like, then it makes it easy for them when they see that person or see that company to identify, oh my gosh, that's exactly who Craig's looking for. And then they have to go to work creating that referral.
And my guest today is Tiffanie Kellog. She is a referral marketing and network expert, which is something that I am not. So I'm the exact opposite. So that's why I have you on, because referral marketing and networking are two things that I don't like and I'm not good at. And it's not because I'm not good at it, I don't like it. I don't like it, which is why I'm not good at it. I wanted to clarify that, because I always go, well, Craig, you probably don't like it because you just don't know how to do it. I have an idea. I just don't like a lot of people. So networking is always one of these weird, uncomfortable things that I have to rev up for to do.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'm the exact same way. Put me on a stage in front of hundreds of people, I'm good to go. Put me in a one-on-one conversation, I'm fine. But for me to walk into a room of 50, 100, 200 people that I don't know and have to network it takes a lot of energy out of me. Afterwards, I need a nap, and I have to rev up before as well.
Yeah, I've got to really convince myself that I'm supposed to be here. Because I think a lot of folks have had the same kind of networking group experience where you go, it's maybe at a local bar or a local area, a restaurant or something, and most of the place is full of people who are either looking for work, which is not anything that we're doing. We're not looking for employees, or
Right.
they're Aflac salespeople, they're realtors. They're all, everyone is in there looking and hunting around for clients. It's like walking into a Shark Tank with meat underwear.
Right, right. And it's interesting because sometimes we'll talk about the networking disconnect, because a lot of entrepreneurs will think of networking as, here's where I can go to meet a room full of people that would potentially buy from me, that would be clients. Though those exact same people, none of us are going to those events thinking, I'm going to buy today. I'm looking for somebody to give my money to that I haven't met yet. And it typically doesn't happen that way. And so a lot of people don't like networking because they have expectations of something happening that typically won't. And so we almost have to begin to shift our focus or our intention when we go networking. And so what's helped me out is, instead of let me go networking to find a prospect or to find that next speaking gig, to find the next person that wants to hire me, my goal is, how do I book a meeting from the meeting? So I'm at the networking meeting. How do I find somebody that could be a good referral source or could be a good prospect and get them to set up that next appointment?
So let's talk about that, because you wrote a book about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And it was 4.5 networking mistakes, and I was reading over it, and I've seen people make these mistakes. Some of the things you mentioned, I have learned on my own that you're absolutely right. Like, one of the things that you talked about was about business cards and passing out business cards. You got to have all kinds of business cards, and it's, in my experience, it's not about giving out business cards because they end up in the garbage or they end up at the bottom of someone's purse. It's more about getting business cards to some degree.
Yeah, so, one of the things we talk about in the book is, don't give people your business cards unless you ask for them. And I know personally I've been a victim of what I call in-person spamming. That person that comes up to you, shoves the business card in your hand as they're running out the door. And what typically happens with those cards is exactly what you mentioned. It's, they end up in the bottom of your purse or in the trash can. But to me, it's more about the connections that you make. And so I know some people measure their success at a networking event by how many cards do I walk out with. For me, it's how few cards do I walk out with, as long as there's some kind of follow-up from that.
And what exactly are you setting up for expectations on that follow-up at the actual first-time interaction?
So it really depends on the person that I'm talking to. For some people, it's, hey, do you want to get together and have a coffee? Or could I invite you to come to this next event or workshop with me? For others, it's, can we follow up, and maybe next time I'm in your area, let's have a conversation. There's a lot of things that we have the opportunity to do. And it might not even be something where you're sitting down with that person. But one of the things that I love to do when I'm networking is ask people, what's a challenge that you're facing in your business? And from that, I can figure out, what are they up against? And you probably know a ton of people with lots of resources, great blogs, videos, articles, and I'm always looking to find a complaint from someone that then, whether it's an article that I wrote or a friend's podcast, a professional associate's blog, that then I can share as a resource, not only to help make my referral sources look good, but also to help the person that I just met. I want to offer support and help people out. And a lot of times people jump into relationships, especially when networking, with what can you give me? What can you give me? But I think even something as simple as, hey, you mentioned you had an issue closing sales. I have this great article by a referral source of mine, and I thought I would share it with you because maybe you could pick up a pointer or two.
So how do you keep that database in your head? Because, I know that if you're the president of the United States, someone will whisper, this is Stacy, and she works at here, and if you just, and she's got a husband named Dave who works, and so you'll remember these things. But, you meet somebody and you find out what their pain point is, and you may not have anything at that moment for them, but 2 or 3 months down the road, you read something. How are you going to, like me, I'm going to have a hard time connecting those two. So is there a special way that you keep track of what people need and what people are doing?
So in the book, we have the 4.5 networking mistakes, but I also talk about there's 19 networking nuggets, what to do before, during, after a networking event, as well as a couple tips on how to deal with networking nervousness. Networking nugget number 12 is actually write notes on the back of your business cards that you receive. Because I will not remember in 2 days, yet alone 2 months, the conversation that we have typically. And so I think if we're able to take notes on the back of business cards, that way we have it in writing, and then we can use that and transfer it into our whatever database we happen to use. And I know most of, the people in my network that are well knowledged on certain topics, and usually I can go search their blog or search their YouTube channel, look through their podcast, and recommend one pretty quickly. Not always, but usually. And so you just think about who are the people that you like to follow, who are the people that have really good content and topics that complement yours.
And you were talking about networking nervousness, that you popped that up. And I don't get nervous at networking events. I get bored. I get kind of annoyed because, like I said, you walk in there and it's like I just slit my wrist and dunk them into a place where all the leeches are, because everybody comes flocking to you. I mean, you really don't have to do too much at a networking event if you just stand there, because the introverts will stand there and the extroverts will swim around you and come up to you. So how can you reduce a lot of that? How can you, because I think a lot of times, and me being a misanthropic recluse, I will say that I feel like I waste a lot of time at these events talking to people who have no idea of how to network properly. They have no idea how their business is going. They're just grasping at straws at these networking events. How do you find the right folks?
I'm very focused when I go to a networking event. One of the nuggets is have a goal. And so I typically will have a goal of how many connections that I want to make when I go into an event. And so instead of it being, I'm bored, or what am I doing? I'm like, I'm here to set up 4 appointments. And as soon as I set up those 4 appointments, I can leave. And so I won't say it becomes a game, but it's, hey, I can get this task done, because introverts sometimes like those tasks. I can get this done, and then I can get out of here. Now, there's a couple different ways that you can move quickly. I typically will spend only a couple minutes with each new person that I meet. I won't spend a lot of time. I won't spend 30 minutes or an hour talking to someone new. If I think they're a good potential prospect or referral source for me, then I'll schedule a meeting for them. Let's go grab coffee. Let's have a quick phone call or Skype. And then if there's somebody I'm not, then you just kind of move on to the next person quickly. And then I use a series of questions typically to determine, is that person the right for me or not? And so it's more of a, let me see if you're right, and if you're not, let me move on to the next person, so I'm not spending a ton of extra time with people that do bore me or would, just suck all my time and energy.
So instead of just looking them dead in the eye and saying, I'm sorry, you're boring, I need to go. How do you end conversations? Because I feel like, I don't like to initiate conversations, and then when I get stuck in a bad one, I feel obligated to kind of ride it out or desperately look for a buddy to, there's somebody, and then run away.
Yeah. So the nice way that you can do it is certainly, if you and I were talking, not that I would have this conversation with you, but it'd be like, Craig, I so appreciate meeting you this evening, though I don't want to keep you from meeting other people here, because I know you're here to network. So I do hope to see you again, and thanks for your time.
Thank you. I wanted to make sure I know what the brush off phrase was, so when I hear it, I can identify it and go, that guy's brushing me off.
Now, there's also the old handoff. And so if you liked the person, but it's just time to move on, you hand them off to somebody that you liked. If you didn't like the person that you were talking to, then you hand them off to someone you don't really care for. Yeah. There's always kind of that. And back in the day, I don't do this much anymore, but back in the day when I was new to networking, I would take a partner with me, and you could give them that look, and they knew it meant you needed rescuing.
Yeah, a wingman.
Right, yeah.
I prefer a term I call, so I'm not really good at introducing myself to folks, because if you come up to me, I'll happily talk to you, because that's, as speakers, that's what we do. We get people talking to us all the time, and so I'll happily do that, but I'm not going to go across the room and introduce myself, so I get a person I call the whale, and I barnacle network. So let someone who is very influential and knows everybody, and I will cling to them and let them introduce me instead, so it takes a lot of the pressure off.
Yeah. I have something similar. I call it tag team networking. So if you've got the well that know everybody, brilliant. But maybe it's just 2 of you and neither of you know the people there. And when you tag team network, I let the other person talk about me as well as I talk about the other person. So you're never actually having to talk about yourself. You're always getting the opportunity to promote others. And I find that the majority of people would much rather talk about someone they know, like, and trust than talk about themselves. Though I do recommend, so for you and I, we don't necessarily want to go up and talk to random strangers, as I'll typically find networking buddies, tag team partners that like to talk to strangers, that have never met anyone that they don't like. And so I'll partner with those people so that they can like break up the groups and talk to all the strangers. And I help keep us on time and on task to hit our goal and get out of there.
Now, you have admittedly overcome a lot of these issues that you said that you had about networking, and you actually do it now for a living. You teach people how to network and how to get referrals and things like that. So how did that happen, and why, if it's something that you were not comfortable with at the beginning, why are you doing that now?
So, and I'm still not comfortable networking today, though I know just like I did when I first got involved in networking, I saw networking as an opportunity to grow my business that sure is better than cold calling, in my opinion. And though a lot of times I think people think networking is it, whereas to me, networking is an opportunity it's a piece of how do you create your referral success. And so I look at networking as where can I go to interview potential referral sources, and where can I go to possibly find prospects that could be good clients for me. So to me, it's a way to grow your business. And when I look at it, most entrepreneurs don't have a huge advertising budget, nor do they have a PR, department or person. Most people don't care to cold call. And so it really leaves referral marketing as your fourth option. And I know it was so much better. And I actually stumbled into networking and referral marketing in 2005. I opened a promotional products company in 2003, and I was cold calling, no advertising budget or anything. I just spent my days cold calling, and I'm good at it and I hate it all at the same time. But I needed to do it because I needed to put food on the table, keep a roof over my head. When I stumbled into networking in 2005, I didn't know how to do it, but I thought it sure looked better than cold calling. So let me get into figuring it out. And in 2006, I stumbled across a company now called Ascentive, and really fell in love with what they had. And I was doing a little bit of training for people after I did some of the training myself. And it just started to do a little bit more. And in 2008 or 2009, I decided, I love the promotional product side. It's fun, but I'm going to hand that off to my husband, who runs the company still to this day. And I'm going to get out there and work with entrepreneurs on the best way, in my opinion, to help them create amazing businesses and spectacular lives.
So what have you seen changed since 2005, 2008? Because there's been a lot of upheaval, especially in technology and culture, about how we interact with each other. What big changes have you seen for the better since 2005? One
of the things that I love about what the online networking offers is that it allows us to enhance our offline relationships. People that I would only see on a monthly or quarterly basis, now we're able to interact on a daily or a weekly basis because we see each other on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. So we're able to create that opportunity. I think that the ease for people to do technology like the blogs, the YouTube channels, the podcast is so phenomenal. It makes it so easy for us to share our knowledge in a podcast. It downloads to our phone on our weekly basis, and we're able to really have this intimate relationship with people through, 20 or 30 minutes a week. And so I think that the technology has been powerful to help enhance those relationships. And, even something as simple as Skype that we're using right now for our call to record the podcast is a way to see people face to face, even if we can't, jot around the hang out at the coffee shop around the corner. I think, though, that while there's great advances in technology, they still don't replace the relationship. And so I think that if we're using the technology to enhance our relationship, we're good to go. If we think technology will replace the relationship that's necessary for referrals, I just don't think it's going to happen.
Well, that is not what I wanted to hear, but that is
sorry.
That's great. No, I totally get the point where you're talking about you get to see your clients more.
Yeah.
Even because I don't friend a lot of people on Facebook, but I have LinkedIn. I will allow people on LinkedIn and clients on Instagram and things like that. I think Facebook, you have to have a little oasis for yourself where you can kind of gripe with your family and friends, and they can, but because I can't have the facade up all the time. I can't show how wonderful things are going all the time. It's irritating. But I can see where, posting pictures to Instagram, posting events and things on LinkedIn really brings about more exchange versus every couple months you send out a newsletter, or every couple of weeks you send out a newsletter and it's very cold and distant. Since this has evolved and you're using technology more, I see this thing called an Tiffanie, which I wasn't sure if that's a robot replacement of you.
No, I'm very much, I like to be in person, but this was coined a couple of years ago by one of my clients, actually. And so we used to do in programs that I would offer, I have a lot of workshops, and we would end it with, what's your aha moment? But it's not very personal. And so the Tiffanie is the epiphany that you get when working with Tiffanie. So it's an E followed by Tiffanie. And it's just kind of our fun way of, here's what, kind of came out most, or here were some top points.
And what have you found? Has it been a familiar theme in some of these Tiffanies that have happened? Is there some issue that most of us are having that you've been able to kind of bring to the surface?
I think when it comes to referral marketing, one of the powerful Tiffanies that a lot of people have is, most entrepreneurs think, let me go out and go to join all these networking events and get to know hundreds of people, and hopefully I'll get referrals. It's not about that, though. It's about who are the 4, 6, or 8 people that can pass you business consistently, and creating those relationships. And they really need to change it from referral marketing and rename it to relationship marketing, because you're not going to get referrals from people that you don't have a relationship with.
And finally, I for someone like myself that I can network when I need to, I can also kind of steer away from it when I have to. What have you found it to be a good balance? Because I think some people will get into a mode where they're networking for a long time and then they just disappear because they can't follow up, because they spend all that energy networking. The follow-up disappears. They've got all these names they don't know what to do with. So is there a practice that you put in that once you've done all this stuff, and how to maintain it for over a long period?
Yeah, so for me, a couple things here. Number one, every networking event, before it goes on my calendar, I need to know, why am I putting it on my calendar? Is this networking event going to be right for me? And I've got lots of questions you could ask, but 2 quick ones are, are my prospects going to be there, my ideal clients, and are people that could pass me referrals going to be there? So I typically want to make sure that I have one of the 2 there. Otherwise, why am I going? Also, when I schedule time in my calendar for a networking event, and I'm picky, I don't go to a ton of networking events. It needs to be the right one. When I schedule time in my calendar for the event, I actually schedule time in my calendar for the follow-up as well. Because if you go to a networking event, or lots of networking events, and you never have time to follow up, then you're essentially just running around in a circle, not creating anything. You're rarely going to create powerful relationships from meeting someone at a networking event. It's so often going to have to be taken outside of that group or outside of that meeting, whether it's, coffee, a phone call, a series of meetings, if you want to create someone that's going to pass you a steady flow of referrals. So schedule the time for it, schedule the time for the follow-up, schedule the time for the right events, and if you can't do that, don't go.
Well, how are you vetting these events? Because, a lot of times you go to these networking events, you have no idea who's going to be there.
Well, I may not be able to know who's going to be there, but a lot of times you can talk to the organizations and get an idea of, is this something that you have on a weekly, a monthly, a yearly basis? What has been attendance in the past? What kind of people have attended? And so it may take a little bit of work on the front end to find out if it's the right event. You could also ask people that are members of that association what they think of the events. One of the things that I loved about in LinkedIn in the advanced searches is it actually shows you can go in and search by groups. And so let's say you are going to the Florida Bankers Association. I'm just making that up. Event, or you were thinking about going, you could actually go in and see who's a member of that organization and ask some of the network that you already have, hey guys, what do you think of this event?
Well, I really appreciate it, because I'm not a person that likes to go to outside anyways. That's why I podcast. I'm in the bunker right now. You're my 3rd phone call for the day, so this is a good way of me staying inside. But I also know that in a day or 2, I have to go to an event at a resort for a large group of people, and I'm going to have to mingle. So it's for me, it's that dichotomy of where I know where my boundaries are, but I also know what my obligations are, and I know that networking. If you're in business for yourself in any capacity, network is an obligation. Networking is an obligation. It's not something that you can just kind of ignore. Otherwise, you will not get any business because it's all about relationships. What was the most exciting and fun networking event that you've been to that actually was also beneficial?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to think about, because it's interesting because I'm not huge in networking, but my husband and I are actually launching next week an event on a monthly basis. It's called Brewing Up Business. We're going to hold it at a local brewery because we're into beer. We're going to hold it at a local brewery once a month. So we mix beer. Now, please understand you don't want to get drunk when you're networking. That's a no-no. But we're going to be hosting an event every month, of people that like to drink beer and need to network. But most fun, I have to think about the most fun at a networking event I've ever had. It's not typically fun for me because I'm like you. I'd rather be in the bunker.
Yeah, because I agree. The beer, especially craft beers, is a good way to loosen me up to get me to go and talk to people. Because I will sit there and nurse a beer for an hour listening to people ramble on about Aflac or why I need life insurance. So it sounds great. Is that something that is local to your area? Is that something that you're gonna spread around these special, networking events?
In 2017, we are mainly going to be in the Tampa, Florida area, though we are exploring hosting kind of a one event in a couple cities around the country. And then hopefully as it grows, we may be in other places around the U.S. It's certainly something I'm open to talking to people about. Cause let's combine two things, networking and beer. It's always a fun thing.
Well, let's get the referrals going. How can people find you and learn more about what you do and how you can help them?
So my website is TiffanyKellogg.com, and I'll spell it out because it's a little funny. It's www.tiffanie, Tiffanie, Kellogg, Kellog.com. And they can also go like my page on Facebook. It's facebook.com/Tiffanie, Tiffanie, Speaks, Speaks. Well,
I am going to open up a beer just for you now and
all right.
And go do some networking later on today. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so very much for having me on today, Craig.
That's the show. Thanks to Tiffany for her time. If you like the show, head over to iTunes and leave a review. You can head over to realitycheckpodcast.com and sign up for the newsletter. You can follow us on Reality Check Pod on Twitter, and you can email Craig at speakercraigprice.com with comments, questions, or guest suggestions. See you next week.